Welcome everybody to AI TV. We're broadcasting live from AI Expo Africa 2020 online. Online because of COVID, but that doesn't stop us. We've just run the live show last week and the show is still live. It's on demand at the moment. And AI TV has also gone virtual. We're running everything this year on Zoom, and it gives me great pleasure to welcome Johan Steyn, who's the Senior Manager, Process and Innovation at IQ Business in South Africa. Welcome, Johan, to AI TV. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Mick. Thank you for the opportunity. Also, thank you for having had me at AI Expo. It was a great opportunity and a great privilege to be part of such an amazing event.
So, Johan, look, you and I have known each other a while now, and you know you're a leading light actually in the community. I know all the work you're doing with your own activity, interviewing all sorts of global thought leaders. I mean, before we get into what you do as a day job, tell me a little bit about the pulse of the industry, and you're talking to people around the world at the moment about AI and what's happening globally. How would you summarize where we are with this right now on a global level, and then perhaps bringing it back to Africa and what we're doing more regionally?
Yeah, it's a good question. Look, my passion for AI coincided with my own son, who's 6 now. And I constantly think about his future. So I am very interested in the technology. Of course I am. But I keep on thinking about what world will I be leaving my son with and future generations. So I think there's the exciting technology side, but then there's also all the other important things around ethics and data privacy. And are we going to end up in some sort of a world where robots control us and all that? But to answer your question, it seems to me that there's still a lot of confusion about what this technology really is. Of course, with clients who might not be AI experts, you can expect it. But when I speak to some people in the field even, they seem to look at it through just one lens and almost like a silver bullet, and it's going to change the world. And so to give you an example, one of my customers who's part of a very large university, they want to introduce a chatbot. And then I said, but what about, so firstly, what do you understand a chatbot to be? And it seemed to be like this godly thing that can just solve everything in their view. And then I said, but what about, taking people on the journey, and what about change management, and what about people readiness and data readiness and all that? And he was almost taken aback because he said, I just want a bot. Just give me a bot.
Yeah.
And I said,
yeah.
So I think all this holistic view about taking your organization with you, doing good with it, that's lacking. I think one of the reasons is often it's the IT or the tech department driving this tech and not the business and not the people. So I still think in my humble opinion, we're very far off as a whole, really understanding what this tech is and the good and the bad that it can do. And the same here in South Africa, I think, we've got some very real issues that we can solve through using this kind of technology. But it seems that there's a lot of talk and a lot of forums. I don't really see a lot of action. I'm not sure why, but that's just my take. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, look, I mean, you've echoed many of the comments that I've had from interviewing other people on AI TV this season with the show. I mean, I've come from sort of 20 odd years in the tech space, mainly enterprise systems and software development tooling, and everything that entails, and really the theme is exactly the same. The paradigm hasn't really changed. It is a change program at the end of the day. So when a customer says, I want a chatbot, and then you ask those questions, as you rightly mentioned, what about organizational strategy and readiness, people, processes, governance, ethics, training, the people side of it is so important. If you haven't got those other ingredients, it's almost like baking a one ingredient egg where the only one ingredient cake where the only ingredient is the technology. It's just one egg, and that's the only meal you can make. If you're just starting with one thing, the change program will ultimately fail. And I've heard this multiple times, and I've always said it. Essentially, artificial intelligence is dumb as a technology. It is just a technology. Those other ingredients are what make it come to life. And I've had some fascinating conversations. So yeah, I'm just mirroring back what you've said, really. It's great that someone wants to use a bot, but you have to have this bigger conversation. So now,
if I could just maybe add,
yeah,
Nick,
sure.
Sorry, if I can just maybe add, my favorite question to ask customers when they talk about we want AI, we want to be an AI organization, all that, is to do what? And that's normally where the conversation becomes very weird, because their competitors are doing it, or they had a mandate from the CIO or the CEO, but what do you want this tech to do? And they haven't thought it through. And I'm talking about big banks and big telcos here, not stupid people. But what is this going to do? Because oftentimes AI is not the answer necessarily to the problem. So it's really almost really stepping back and say, let's just start at the start. What's the business problem here? It's maybe not AI now, maybe later. So just wanted to add that.
Yeah, I think the phrase that I've always advocated when I've been talking to large customers, what is the capability that you're trying to build? Because it's a capability that essentially, from a business perspective, that you're actually deploying. That capability might be to respond to customers, or sign new deals, or manage a process, or your supply chain, or whatever that capability is. And there needs to be a competency to manage that capability, and a competency to implement that change. So again, if you don't have, you can have all the builders on the building site and all the tools and to build a house, but if you don't have a drawing, you ain't going to build a house. So I think if you've got these missing ingredients on your technology change program, you are destined for a fairly rapid or drawn out expensive failure. And we've seen those over the decades, and I'm sure there's people who are trying some of these technologies now and failing, and maybe even giving up because they think, it didn't work. So yeah, interesting times, and we're really only at the beginning of it. So now, Johan, tell us a little bit about what you're doing at IQ Business and what you're doing in the business world here, locally and regionally.
Thank you. So I'm part of a capability or practice called Process Innovation, which is essentially business consulting. I myself do a lot of work around the robotic process automation space, or intelligent automation. And I might be a bit biased in saying this, but it seems to me that almost any problem that we are dealing with is to some extent a process problem. And we try and put technology over it to just fix it, but fundamental processes are often not right. So from IQ Business is the largest homegrown technology consulting provider in South Africa. And we've got various capabilities that really, what I like about working for IQ is all these various offerings that we have complements this digitization journey, from human capital management, change management, data, which is obviously a big part of this whole conversation that we're having at the moment, and then process, which is where I work. So it's management consulting, it's advisory, but it's also implementation. So I'm having a conversation at the moment with a large insurer about robotic process automation. And back to my earlier point of the university and the chatbot, are your people ready? Can we help you with the change management? What about your data landscape? What about looking at your processes? So it's a simple way to put it. It's solving clients' problems using technology. So that's essentially what I do there. And I love to be client-facing and to give them advice, and then hopefully get the implementation work as well.
Well, fantastic. I mean, we'll put the link in the notes here for the AITV entry. And if anyone wants to find out about IQ Business, they can just click on the link. Now, the other thing that you're doing, and you've got your own community. You put out a newsletter. As I say, you do those interviews. What can people find out more about what you're doing there? What's the name of your community, and how long has it been running?
Yeah. So about a year and a half ago, I started a website called aiforbusiness.net. And it's really not, if I could say, a techie forum. It's about what's the business applications, and also more and more about the ethical and privacy and things like that. So I do publish now and then some articles, but started about 4 months ago with these interviews. So I just started reaching out to people. I mean, Nick, you were one of the first people who I was hosting. It's a 20-30 minute talk to various leaders looking at, and globally, looking at this AI thing from different lenses. And I was quite pleased over the last few weeks. I really started making some traction. For instance, I interviewed one of the data scientists at Google, the head of AI for Samsung, and others. So some really big names. And it's interesting how approachable these people are, how keen they are to talk about their technology. And as a whole, I found how humble they are because they all approach it with, we actually don't really know that much. and they're willing to learn, which is such a great thing. I think at the moment people think they know a lot and they become arrogant. I think that's a downfall for all of us. When it comes to life, but when it comes to this technology, if unless you are hungry to keep on learning, keep on networking, realizing you don't really know all that much, I don't think you'd be successful. So that's really that community. I put out a newsletter once a week where I feature one of the newest AI books. I look at some AI events, and I sometimes publish some of these videos and articles. And it's really, if I could put it like this, it's for the love of the game. It's just because I'm so passionate about this and so hungry. And then sometimes what I think is, if no one ever reads my articles or look at my newsletters, but I can learn as I speak to some of these people, then I'm totally satisfied.
Well, we'll put that link in as well below, and as soon as that's up, we'll share it. Yeah, and I mean, just to wrap up, I mean, you know, obviously you came to the show and you gave a talk, and you know, for all of us, you know, an online conference was new, challenging, rewarding. You know, it was all things to all people, I think, and but you know, we all gave it a go essentially this year. I mean, clearly it was COVID, and you know, the feedback we've had has been broadly very, very good. I mean, how did you find the online experience? Even if COVID is cured tomorrow, do you think there's a place for online and interacting in the way we have been of late this year?
I find it refreshing. I mean, I love traveling and I love seeing new countries. Last year, I went overseas 7 times to go speak at conferences. And like anyone who's done business travel, it's actually just a long flight to do a lot of work. I have another long flight. I love the fact that I can almost get dressed half an hour before my talk, do my talk, and then keep on going with my life. So I think for the foreseeable future, there will be a big place. I think from an organization or event organizing point of view, less costs in hotel accommodation or flights. You can have a much wider audience of people speaking. But just to comment on AI Expo, and I honestly mean this, I think the organization from the very beginning, when you reached out to me, and the communication on the WhatsApp group, emails, you guys were very organized. I've spoken at some big events where the organization, from a speaker point of view, was shocking. You don't know what's happening a few days before your flight. You're not too sure when you're going to speak and really which one of the topics you're going to speak about. So I think the communication and the organization was, from a speaker point of view, exceptionally very good.
Thanks
and
a lot.
I congratulate you on that. And I look forward to more events like this. And I think you've set a benchmark, hopefully, for speakers about quality from an organizational point of view that we can expect. You know? So well done. Congratulations.
Okay, thanks a lot. A lot of people perhaps don't realize that the speaking program at a conference, particularly of the size that we put together, I think we had 82 speakers, and we had to get all the films pre-recorded. They had to be uploaded and annotated, and you know, the amount of work just on the program itself is a project within a project. But yeah, look, I'm very pleased with not only the diversity of speakers we had this year, the countries they came from. We had a higher percentage of female speakers, the highest I think we've ever had. I think we were at closer to 30%. I looked at the figures this morning, had 32% female attendance at the show as well, which again, I think the industry average is around sort of 22. So, you know, we're growing, we're improving, we're adapting. This has been a major adaptation for us this year. But yeah, we're growing. And I think last year we had 375 companies. This year we had 500. This year we had 2,000 registered delegates. I think we had over 1,200 unique visitors through the show. So, you know, it is a new thing. I think we can always improve. But yeah, maybe some form of hybrid next year. But yeah, it's been good. And I wanted to just wrap it up here, Johan, by saying thank you for your contribution. And if anybody else wants to find out about Johan, what he's doing in his community and or what he's doing at IQ Business, just follow the links below. And yeah, thank you for coming along, Johan, and being on AI TV today.
Thank you for the opportunity, and keep on with the good work.
Thanks a lot.